So the next day when I oriented myself in my, we'll go back here. But the next day when I oriented myself in my heart, I felt amazing. I felt great about life, and I felt an energy in me. I would listen to my heart's wisdom and consider leaving my life, pondering this as a reality, fantasizing how I could make this happen. This feeling produced happiness in me. The feelings were so profound and real. But I became confused with the Heaven's Gate connection. Was I supposed to follow them? I was like, I didn't get this. Was I supposed to abandon all my attachments like they did? How would I survive? I didn't understand. Was there a walk-in involved? All the unknowns terrified me, and it was the push and pull between what my experiences became. I wrote, my mother had come home from a trip 2 days after I finished reading that book, and when she greeted me, I knew that I had to go. I had to leave. I had to. I could feel my separation. Remember my fourth contact event, where the beings specifically focus on my connection with my mother, and it's this like these motherly ties, and they show me the ocean of the mind and how I have to move past these feelings I have with my mother, this kind of attachments I have. And here it is in my persona coming out in my subconscious. It was just this unconscious subconscious energy. What the hell? Like, why do I feel so intensely? I need to separate from my mother. And that's how that was part of the persona and the subconscious coming out. But it was the next day, on December 6th, that the full awareness of the rising began to take shape. I recorded this dream. Had a dream where I was lying perfectly flat on my back in the water. I was in perfect balance with my backside perfectly in the water, just enough, and I was exposed in the air just enough, so perfectly I could float. I remember beautiful colored rainbows in the water. I was gently floating down a river and had to pass under a bridge. I was with a girl.
The perfect balance of the dimensional me, which is the part of me in the water, and the physical me, which is the part of me exposed. The dimensional body being powered up and manifesting in the physical body, a merging of two selves, two timelines, two identities. This other dimensional me wanted to merge, and I wanted to merge, and this dream is its symbol. It is the heavenly rainbow river leading to the great bridge, the checkpoint. Again, the elder is totally the woman on the side of the river, and I know the bridge represents the end of the blue cuboid and the beginning of the red.
I woke to a powerful energy surge in my consciousness. I basically got up and was like, what's going on? My body felt golden light. Like the cells of my body had golden light all in them. I felt that I literally woke up from a deep sleep. Like the core of my heart was like wide open. And as if I'd spent 20 years unconscious. And now this core of my heart was just wide awake. And it's virtually impossible to describe this experience, only that my heart was awakened to its truest and fullest self. That morning, I looked in the mirror, and I was not the person I'd known myself to be over those last 20 years. Something very big and spiritual clicked in me, and I knew the message very clearly. I was to leave.
After all the analysis I have done on this period, I am now convinced the exact reason I have this very pronounced experience is because I begin to resist it. A whole part of me wanted me to respond and listen to this message to leave, but me on the surface was already fighting it. The result is the me that wants to listen to it gets louder. The dimensional body surfaces, and the result is it becomes extremely, extremely pronounced. It then becomes a grand awakening of the eternal self, the depth and the truth of my higher self at my core, impacting my energy field and its purity to experience the heaven body, the light body in my cells. The energy of my heart is exposed and my field extends out to its core. But what's a wild realization all these years later is that I needed the Heaven's Gate words to make space in my mind for how altered I would become. That heart exposure is so extreme and foreign to my normal state that I had to have words about some walk-in. This moment is totally God. God exposed, God found. This is without a doubt my higher self. The spinning as the orb in the white room is the heart exposure that is this depth. And then the ocean of the mind device creates a perceptual hold of that exposure, translating to a visceral feeling of my subconscious, my heart exposed, and my subconscious core exposed.
as I got ready for my day in the shower and got dressed, I could feel my soul. I realized that this whole time throughout my life, my body was my soul. Like the energy that is my body is my soul, not the physical body, but the energy that moves my body. The awareness, I guess you could say, is my soul. The awareness moving itself throughout my body is my soul. And it's a perfect integration of the physical and spiritual, which I understood was that dream. It was, I could feel that integration of spirit and the physicality.
Another way I could reframe this now is I am encased in a bubble of the higher self, a purity of consciousness within and throughout me, an energy awareness that I move through. This was the eternal pure heart. Awareness can't be bottled up. So, as a timelessness body presently, I can draw from this. But I'll never be as pure as this, as unobstructed in my mind and DNA. So pure the state I was in, I presently have lived and had my life throughout my body, but it still got imprinted in my mind and body to draw from. And it's intense. This is the me that saw the afterlife vision, the past life, the light body, the afterlife boundary, the transition from the past life to the afterlife self, the entire afterlife vision, even though it is too deep for my 20-year-old mind to comprehend. And it's in meditating that some of the grand connections are made, that the ocean of the mind feels connected to this moment, like the subconscious expanse it creates helped me feel the expanse of my soul. It's clearly a part of this moment.
During the day, I could feel a tunnel. I closed my eyes and I could see it in this like closed eyes, like I guess in an astral space or something. I have no idea. A tunnel was coming down. It was like giving energy. It was like subtly giving me energy, and it was very very real. It was pushing some kind of subtle energy onto me.
For the longest time, I questioned and speculated about this effect of seeing a tunnel from above. But now, when I have spent time meditating on this sensation in context to everything else happening at the time, this, in fact, is my higher self. This tunnel coming from above is the real mover, and I am the puppet. And though I speak in a shocked manner, it truly is God calling from above from the realm of the divine angels. Divinity comes from this tunnel. This is the timelessness state, the God state. This is 100% the higher self. I can feel it now. It's why it was so pronounced. But my teenage brain has never touched this and can't make sense of it in the grander scheme of what is going on.
I knew I was experiencing some type of spiritual awakening, but it was paired with the fear of having to leave a life that I loved, friends, family, music, at least my normal everyday life. But I knew I needed to go. It was like this kind of double-sidedness to it. The next night, I dreamt my heart was symbolically a giant, full-grown, blooming oak tree that was golden, full of life, and full of love.
The expression of the perfection that I had become, the gold of my body, of my spirit, the love for life and love for self, for what I truly was, spilling over in my heart. Presently, I can meditate on that golden light. My higher self cares so much about this grand experience of the soul into the physical. So perfect. This is the perfection when soul expresses into the physical. It is perfect. This tree itself is the higher self. The blue vortex does seem to launch this golden oak tree that is the love of me, the divine self, and the dream of the men who came into the mall shooting. That golden DNA body is the same as the golden oak tree body. And Heaven's Gate, talking about letting go of all your human attachments, launches this, turning me into a golden oak tree. Because I don't experience any actual active golden DNA in my contact events, I actually asked the elder about it. And she said, we brought it on. But I was like, from what? She said, we unleashed the factor in it. And I can feel what she meant. There's a frequency in the golden DNA that seems to originate from the higher self. This is the tunnel from above, and it appears to have been putting that frequency of the higher self on me. So they are definitely linked, the tunnel from above and the golden DNA. Again, this idea that golden DNA is a human DNA capability, and it just may have been facilitated by the alien part of me. This golden DNA allows a fluid electromagnetic frequency flow through one's body, like it's a purity of the body. This becomes the best expression of what the rising really was. The golden DNA is an expression of the change to a lightness or thinness or more open physical body at the time. while my higher self from the afterlife vision, which was concentrated into my physical body over the contact events, made it a little denser. So the dimensional body and the lightness of the physical body meet in the middle. The physical body becomes lighter, while the energy body becomes denser or more concentrated, and they meet in the middle.
So here he was having this intense experience, and I'm trying to live out a normal life. This image, I think, best represents what exactly it was that I was going through. It literally felt like that. It felt like that. Whatever that image is, that's what it felt like. This heart was blazing with some kind of higher energy, and I was trying to live out my normal life. So I was having fear, but I was having fear and wanted to hold on to the life that I knew. So I tried to live out my normal life, all while I was having a spiritual awakening. I couldn't even comprehend how I would tell anybody what was happening to me. So here I was having this profound spiritual experiences surrounded by my life as a 20-year-old. I finished my exams at music school. I found studying very hard. I still saw some friends and remembered going to a couple of parties at this time. I even saw a band or two. But this was the experience that I was having. This was it. This was this feeling of this blazing heart. And it felt like two forces were in me, one that wanted me to leave and one that was too scared and wanted to leave life to be the same. If I told myself I refuse to leave my life, forget it, I'm not going to leave. That's crazy. Why the hell would I do that? That doesn't make any sense. I got anxiety. I felt like I was missing out on some kind of powerful opportunity in my life. So I handled it by making the intention to leave, telling myself, okay, I'm going to leave, which relaxed me and allowed me to live out my normal life. But then I was too scared to make any moves towards it. I just couldn't comprehend. I couldn't comprehend getting a backpack and walking out the door. It didn't make any sense. I didn't get walking away from a home, a shelter, money, friends, and family. Or as a musician, even this idea of like abandoning your attachments. It didn't make any sense. This whole experience didn't make any sense. And since I didn't know how to go about it, I wouldn't make any moves towards it. I simply just kept myself. I would just pretend I was going to go, and then I wouldn't really do anything about it. So aside from the flashes of my cells feeling like they had light, the tunnel from above coming when I felt like I closed my eyes and feeling energy in my body, that was my soul. There were other powerful awarenesses occurring. I recalled sitting in my chair in my bedroom, awakening to the awareness that I could feel God. I became aware that I could feel that I was connected to an intelligent source that is intelligent, that consciousness is much larger. It goes on and it expands, and what it's connected to is intelligent. And that I was a part of that. I was connected to it, that I was a part of that intelligence. And I could feel its care or its interest in me. And it was a part of me that I could rely on. It was this interconnectedness. I could feel an awareness that brought me to this kind of God realization. Here I am, a 20-year-old musician, having this like profound God awareness in my bedroom of all places. And it wasn't an illusion either. It was an understanding of my core, of my source. What proceeded from this God sensation was a love energy throughout everything. I could feel love permeating the molecules of the world around me, love stretched outwards. And it permeated the world.
When you get rid of all the attachments, family, friends, jobs, money, and you seek that connection with the universe, God's love is all that remains. This is the giant golden oak tree, not as an image projected out, but as an internalized experience.
I could feel a deep unity. I recalled driving. I'm like gonna go. So trying to live out my life. I'm driving and hanging out with friends, and I'm driving to my friend's house, and I'm looking at the mountain, and I can feel I'm in the mountain. A sense of deep unity stretching outwards. My presence is in the mountain. My presence is in the clouds. And I recalled sitting in my bedroom, and I could feel I was in the mountain that I was looking at. I didn't have any wisdom about what I was experiencing or how to handle it, for that matter. In hindsight, learning to meditate to ground myself would have been very helpful. But I felt a lot of energy within me. And when I wasn't focused on it, it sat in the background of my life. It kind of just, this energy, this high consciousness energy was sitting in the background. And another crazy thing was that there was a powerful energy right up here, kind of in the crown of my head. And that sounds very much only from my present knowledge, because at the time I didn't have this knowledge. It sounds very much like the crown chakra of the in Vedic philosophy, the Sahasrara chakra, which is associated with attainment and cosmic consciousness. And I don't know if that's tied to the energy work that the beings did on me, but it seemed very connected, and it was a definitely force or sensation that sat at the top of my head, above my, like at the crown above here, as if there was like a thing, some kind of energy right there.
Now, when I focus on this experience and meditate upon this time, it's clear a subtle energy alignment was running through me, up the spine, and manifesting distinctly at the top of my head, and it didn't go away. What is so pronounced was that this was occurring naturally, without my doing. The result is, it is just one of the effects that imprints within me that this happened to me. Something external had altered me internally. When I cross-compared this sensation with those in my contact events, I could feel that to be an orb in the white room is to be in perfect alignment. The circular orb is perfect. And the light grid of the fifth contact event seems very aligned with this chakra experience. And I could say that to a large degree, the grid was aligning chakras of the dimensional body with my regular body. This natural alignment in me is also why in the dream with the men who came into the mall and began shooting, I'm in a meditation posture. In the dream, I become the golden body. A meditation posture symbolized this subconscious alignment. As well, the dream of the floating down the river with my back perfectly in the water and my front exposed in the air perfectly are symbols of this subconscious alignment that was going on in the background.
I would also have flashes from my heart, like a child, like this child energy was in me. Again, if you can remember the white room, the experience I went through in that white room, it was all of these things embodied in this, and it was all being turned on. It was all, I guess, this rising had happened, and I wasn't, I didn't feel a rising occur. I just woke up to this awareness, that this crazy awareness was going on. Amidst this spiritual experience were the flashes that I would get of feeling like a child, like from the soul. Deep within, I felt like a child with all this bright, happy energy. And I recall going to Lee's on the bus and having a flash of the vision from my heart that I felt childlike. In the vision, I was traveling and living out of a backpack. It was this like spiritual, this source, this consciousness, this part of my heart was forcing this energy on me and was giving me these visions of like this opposite life that I was scared to do. I felt like it was, and I felt in that vision that it was an adventure, that to have a backpack and only be living out of your backpack was like an adventure, and it was something that was very powerful and beautiful, and I wanted to do that. But I was like, what? It was like living these two different worlds, my brain trying to attach itself to the planet or to my world, and my heart, which was like forcing this other reality in my life.
The lightness of my physical body and the density of the dimensional body allows any intuitions at this time to be visceral and not fleeting. Like my soul could communicate more clearly, and so the feeling of the vision told me exactly what my body wanted to be doing. And then this vision is fully the Heaven's Gate inspiration to follow the teachings of Jesus. It's like a pure message, the purity of detachment, living like Jesus in an archetypal way, and abandoning your attachments, including your sexual desire.
So every single one of these experiences for me proved that I was going through something really insane. But the bottom line is that the more it proved itself, the more it scared me, because it just meant I had to actually act. I had to leave. I had to travel. I had to experience what I read in that book. And that terrified me. It actually 100% terrified me, because I thought it meant I had to follow them or something. And I didn't understand that. And I didn't want to do that. And they're dead anyway. Why would I follow these crazy people? So the next segment is really my resistance, because I was like, I'm not going to leave my life for that. That doesn't make any sense. So on December 16th, I had so I had been altered, and with it was a message to leave my life. I recall thinking maybe I was misinterpreting things. Maybe I'm misinterpreting the signs. Spirituality had become my passion over that last year, and I exercised following my heart, that I could actually be intuitive, and that I could listen and it would direct me properly. I'd gotten good at listening to my spiritual self. I'd proven over and over again that synchronicities and intuition did point the right direction. My heart did direct me properly. Now here I was up against everything I'd learned, having to make an ultimate decision of trust. So the Heaven's Gate people committed, and the problem is here, in part, was how crazy these people were, right? The Heaven's Gate people. They committed to their way of life for over 20 years until their death. I thought this is what was being asked of me. I thought I was supposed to remove myself from my life and live like they did for the next, till I die. And again, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. I didn't understand that. So I resisted it any way that I could. On December 16th, I had this dream. I dreamt that I was in a large house and Leah was in the house with me. And the house began to slide downwards into a crevice. And when it hit the bottom, it was with a force that woke me up. I wrote, oh yeah, when I woke up, the dream woke me up at 6:30 in the morning. But during the day, my mother asked me if I heard a bang in the house around 6:30. I was like, whoa, no, I never did. But I was scared because that's the time I woke up from a house falling and sliding into a crevice. And I was convinced my mom felt my dream or heard my dream. And it just continued to keep showing me that these events were real. They were strange and weird, real events. And always the message was about go and leave your home. And I felt the struggle in me was creating a fall in my consciousness. It really was. I was in this high state and I started to like fall. I started to leave that ability to remain in that state. And I was disturbed by my struggle also because I'd never experienced this in my life. I was having this huge mental struggle that was unprecedented in my life, and I didn't know how to deal with it. As time went on, I became very scared that that in me was something was awakening, and I was losing my sense of self in the process. It was such a beautiful experience, yet it was creating all these fear associations around it. Like I was being told to leave by some force, aliens. So upon reviewing this journal in 2001, I couldn't believe I had written very clearly that it felt like aliens were telling me to leave. I could feel something else was involved with this strange spiritual awakening. At the time, I labeled it as aliens, but I had no basis for it. The negotiation. So I had a favorite place in the woods that I like to go to by my home in Westwood Plateau. I recalled one night going there and laying on the ground and staring up the sky. And I basically was trying to negotiate with whatever force was doing this to me. I recalled saying, I'm going to stay, have a girlfriend, and play music. This is what I want. I'll do whatever this thing is in my next life. I was like, I'll do this in my next life, okay? At the time, directly above me, in the spot that I was staring, I saw a small meteor. Like as I'm explaining this, I saw a small meteor. And it was like in my eye shot. It was like I was staring at the sky and it went, poof, and its perfect placement above me and timing with the statement seemed statistically unique. So I saw it as a synchronicity. The synchronicity made me reflect on my feelings. And I felt something in the sky that night. I could feel something was in the sky. And at first, the synchronicity made me feel my message was heard. I was like, oh, my message was heard. That's really wild. And maybe I was dealing with some kind of powerful spirits. Like I just didn't know what was going on. But instead of thinking that I was not going to leave, it seemed to excite me to leave. I felt how magical it would be. Like, wow, the synchronicities, I get spoken to by the universe sometimes. It feels so powerful. And I could live in this God world where I'm living by intuition and traveling in the name of God. That's so powerful. And knowing this magical force was behind me, it just fueled more excitement. And I was fighting this excitement. The idea that I could make my everyday life about the magic I had been experiencing over the last year truly excited me. And so I left this negotiation feeling in my heart that I wanted to travel. So it was like I was lost. I couldn't win. I was like trying to find a way around what I was going through. But I still was fighting it. So January 1st came, my parents left, and I rented a room with my friends in a house. I wrote, I didn't know what I was doing. I figured I was going to stay and go with the flow. I was still way too freaked out about leaving. In those days, I would get headaches and have pain in my chest. So here I am having this profound spiritual experiences. I'm in this energy state and I'm resisting it all because it all seems like it's this Heaven's Gate weirdness, walk-in stuff. So I'm like, no, I don't want anything to do with it. So I'm repressing it. And of course it's hurting me. I'm going through pains and chest pains in my heart. I was getting headaches. It's like such a crazy experience. I would feel anxious also. I could feel it was time to move on, and I was holding on to my surroundings. I started my second semester of music school, and I recalled feeling like I shouldn't be there. I was like a distinct feeling I shouldn't be in this place. I remembered coming home and having strains in my heart. I eventually gave the Heaven's Gate book to Rob. I finally told the guy who had that contact experience. And the whole isolation of my experience was too much. I fully assumed the book would do to him what it did to me. And I thought, at least if I had to leave my life this way, maybe I could do it with someone. Maybe we'd do it together. That was my thinking. Maybe this will all happen to him, what was happening to me. But he was not affected by the book at all. And that just made this whole experience seem even more crazy. Was I like kind of suffering from some delusion or like some kind of like problem? But the reality was I was very clear and grounded in my heart what was true. And that just even was so much more insane. Every time, no matter what I did, leaving was always my truth. And I couldn't wrap my head around that. It didn't make any sense. So I kicked fighting. I was having trouble living in two worlds. So I've made a first move. I broke up with Leah. That was the first step. So that month I broke up with Leah, and I told her I couldn't be with her any longer. I didn't really have a good reason, only that I had to leave now, and that I felt that it was never right from the beginning. I hoped that simply breaking up with Leah would appease these feelings. Maybe that was all I needed to do. And maybe this would all settle out if I just break up with her. But the feelings continue, and I knew I needed to leave. I would ask, what was making me do this? What was making me do this? What was making me leave? Was it a whim from reading a book? Like, why did I feel this was real? It made no sense to my brain. I was fighting this experience completely. I resisted it as much as I could. In all honesty, the extreme detachment of the Heaven's Gate people just twisted this message. I thought that I couldn't be an artist anymore. I couldn't be a musician. Music was my life, and I felt like I was being told to abandon everything. So clearly now I was being extreme in my thinking, but I thought this change meant I couldn't be my favorite part of myself. I simply just didn't understand. So I read about the experience several weeks into my spiritual awakening. All the glow had left.
What I'm convinced happens here is the dimensional body is still within me, but my fear of it overpowered my perception of it, muting the experience in my awareness.
All the glow that I had been experiencing eventually left. So I had this intense going on, and I repressed it. No, I don't want anything to do with this. And I was fighting myself. So all the glow that I had been experiencing left. I totally removed myself from it and felt normal again. But here was the catch. I now realized what was normal throughout my entire life was actually fear. I can now articulate that one of the experiences of connecting with Godhead, or this higher state of myself, is fearlessness. It's complete fearlessness. It's an abandonment of fearlessness. This spiritual awakening was an experience in the heart of having no fear. The white room was fearlessness. My persona with the beings was fearlessness. And in the absence of fear is a love higher than human love. The spiritual awakening put me in a place of total love. A love that is unconditional is always available. True love cannot contain fear. I had no fear. And I went from switching that to having complete fear. And I don't mean to say I was now in terror, as much as I was trying to get a feeling back of my normal life. I had altered myself had been altered, and I was looking for normality, what felt like normal in me. And when I got it, I realized our human life has fear. Like everything about our life has fear. Like I had to associate the spiritual, like I hadn't just realized my normal life was fear. The realization was larger than this. The old life I lived had root thoughts of fear, intentions of fear, and they governed and guided my life. And this realization wasn't just for me. It was society in general. It was our life, human life. Everyone lives in fear with root thoughts and intentions of fear that govern and guide our lives. And our consumer world is fear driven. It's fear created. And fear will always govern our personal world unless we completely abandon ourselves to our hearts. And that's the state I was in, this complete abandonment, and completely altered myself. So I was now in this, I was filled with this fear. And I took this experience of total love and replaced it with fear to convince me to leave. It took this change of this internal feeling of going from high love, having no fear, to replacing it with fear that made me realize I had to leave. I had to do this. I knew I couldn't live with myself if, after all I learned in my spiritual journey and having such a profound spiritual awakening, I stayed and knowingly lived a life of fear. And that was the wake up call. But then it was what made me feel like I couldn't believe what I had done. It was this crazy twist. This beautiful spiritual experience overcame me and I ran from it. So I did it. I mustered up the strength to leave. I wrote, I finally decided that I had to muster the strength and leave. I was coming to a spring break in school and I figured that it would be the best time to get ready to go. I decided that on Saturday, the 21st of February, I would leave. So a week before, on the 14th, I started to tell everyone I was leaving. The first step I did was sell my collection of 150 CDs. All my friends were astonished. Then I gave away all my music equipment. Every day I spent with someone or a group of people that I really liked. Depending on how close I was to that individual, did I tell them what was happening to me over the last couple of months? Rob was the first to know. I actually gave Rob the Heaven's Gate book. Again, I was not attached to this book. It was forced this energy on me, and I didn't understand the experience. Even for the universe to be in alignment with my actions, my mom that very week transferred the car into my name. So now I had a car. It was like, I thought I was going to have a backpack and I was literally walking out the door. I was going to go in a bus and sleep in a ditch all of a sudden. And now I had a car. It was like this. It was the synchronicity was magical. I was like, okay, this is in line. I'm supposed to do this. Okay, this is the way it goes. I didn't know what I was doing. Soon word got out to every one of my friends. Some thought it was very cool. Others couldn't believe I was giving away my music equipment. And some literally thought I'd lost it, but I couldn't blame them. The last night I spent with my close friends. And then that morning, very early, I left. I abandoned my life. That's it. That's my story. That's my story tonight. That's it. I abandoned, and all of a sudden, my contact events after this are all while I'm traveling. I traveled for 2.5 years. And what's really wild is these. That's what I wanted to show you. This is that right there. Basically, I think is like me leaving. It's like this was the blue cuboid, and this was the 7 contact events that happened in them. And now there will be another section, another timeline. And what's crazy is the contact events increase. I get more of them. I get them more often. They're 14 over the 2.5 years. And or they're condensed, but sometimes they're happening once a month. And they're more wild. This one was them developing me. This is them kind of working with me in a bunch of different ways. And I get to more back-end experiences. I see their home world, or a home world. I go to bases. So I have a lot of back-end experiences. And they also talk to me about what they're doing and what their plans are on planet Earth. And so it's a crazy, crazy story. The Rising is the big piece that kind of culminated it. I documented this, and you can see why I didn't want to share this with people. But when it's all tied up to alien contact events, I think I'd like to believe it makes sense, and it's maybe not as crazy. Also, the reality was I want to make certain 100%. I didn't go following Heaven's Gate. I read the book, had this experience off the book, and then it was done. I didn't know what to do. I was so lost, but I was not following Heaven's Gate. It was not something that occurred here. It literally just ended, and then I just started traveling and having spiritual experiences and contact events all the while. So thanks, guys, for listening.
So that was the entire video of me on October 18th, 2020, when I first went public with the consciousness event I call The Rising. Honestly, thank you so much for listening. This right here is the summary of what this entire video series has covered. The first contact event was outside time. My identity was erased when converted to an orb. The shared experience with the higher self in the afterlife replaced the identity. The second contact event was in time, and it's clear that when I move into their frequency, I become the identity of that shared experience. So I now take on the identity of the higher self. The fourth contact event was outside time, where technology was applied that expanded the ethereal mind, exposing the subconscious. In the fifth contact event, which was in time, an outside time dimensional body is inserted into my physical body. And the seventh contact event is outside time, where the elder produces a blue vortex which resurges the latent dimensional body, which is the shared experience of the higher self from the afterlife vision. During the Heaven's Gate reading, the organic device in my brain was activated, which had pre-recorded imprints of the White Room and had a message embedded into it by the elder to raise my energy. And then the Heaven's Gate message, which had detachment from sexual desire, detachment from humanity, which, all the detachments from friends and family and career and money, combined with the concept of the walk-in and feeling like I belonged to the evolutionary level above humans, that they had found a way to put that imprint into this, which was actually a connection to a previous memory of the White Room without knowing it. Something I didn't mention in the presentation, but was definitely a part of the experience of the rising, was the trauma response from abandoning identity, from the ego death, combined with the latent alien DNA and the human golden DNA, which was the higher self, right? The force of the higher self converting this DNA structure. And this trauma response in the DNA is what initiates the extreme depth of the dimensional body, which creates these very visceral sensations of a subconscious core exposed, the embodied higher self sensation of feeling my soul moving my body, seeing the cells of my body having light in them, pronounced unity, knowing I'm a part of God, and feeling its love. So this was how gray aliens helped me discover my soul. So I just thought that I would further demonstrate this complex execution by the entities in terms of, say, past life awareness or a past life body, and how I believe it would play out. It might be easier to understand if we remove the spiritual jargon of higher selves, unity, and such, and replace it with just a past life to demonstrate how I'm certain the entities facilitated the rising. So in timelessness, your own identity is removed by becoming an orb. Then a shared experience of the past life is provided via hologram. So let's use something really mundane, either maybe a handmaiden or a farmhand in some medieval society, right? Easy peasy, most of us have probably been something along those lines at some point. So you have that shared experience. And so recall here that a part of the physics here is identity, who you think you are. In this moment, you now identify with all the emotions, frame of reference of reality, the cares, hurts, pains, and loves of the past life via this shared experience. So you've taken on by watching, having a shared experience of a past life, you're going to take on the identity of that past life, right? The next time you meet with the entities, so in reference to my second contact event, when the awareness opens up, you actually take on the identity of the past life. It's now internalized. It's something you witnessed with a shared experience as an orb. And now the second time they open it up, you feel it in your heart. So you actually, am I in this past life? You'd have that. You'd have a thing going on about it in your mind. Still identifying as the past life, using their tech, they embed in you the physical sensations of being the past life. So this is now in context of the fifth contact event. The past life body created in timelessness is placed into your current body. Again, at a later moment of contact, the entities use a blue vortex, providing the same frequency of the exact moment you had the shared experience with the past life and the first contact event in timelessness, bringing it all to the forefront. Then all you need are the triggers in your everyday functioning awareness. Because the original shared experience occurred outside of time, the past life is available to you now, but in subconscious flow states or hypnagogic states. When the triggers are provided in the environment, say via a book with specific trigger words, such as what it was like to be a farmhand in a medieval society, You would literally, if you had a body that had already witnessed this, you would actually be triggered by it, right? And you would actually have flashes of the past life, and you might take them as messages that you need to become a farmhand, something like that, right? Because you have the past life body in you, the flashbacks are pronounced, distinct, and visceral, and would be undeniable to you. So, what ended up happening? I just want to point out that for everyone who knows my story, notice how none of this content appears ever again. It's just so wild to me that in the contact events, the entities never mention detachment, walk ins, or anything to do with Heaven's Gate. The only thing that remained consistent was that I had to keep traveling to be nomadic, but otherwise, it was never mentioned. It was such a moral issue for me at the time that I could not hold the depth and power of the rising. The subconscious core exposed and all the effects impressioned into me a morality that this is what I should be, and my inability to hold it became a moral issue for me. You'll never get how the rising scarred a 20-year-old. I had a DNA structure at the time that could express it. It was so dimensional, exposed, pure, extreme, and pronounced for my mind, but I couldn't hold it. And then I couldn't access it in memory. That's the other twist to all this. I couldn't access it because my brain associated it with Heaven's Gate, which just disturbed me. There was just nothing else. I couldn't rectify having the experience with a group who had done what they had done. And just the way it got impressioned in my brain, it made no sense. I wasn't just going to start following them. None of it added up in my brain on how to handle it. And that made it inaccessible to me. The dimensional body created an assurity that something was a part of me. So that was the other twist. This was a part of me. Something had happened to me and it was a part of me, but I didn't want to go down the rabbit hole of it, of what it was. I actually didn't want to meditate. I never thought to recall the memory of it and meditate on it. It's something, there was a part of me that maybe even knew it had something to do with a larger reality, and I just kind of avoided it. And but there, it's a weird, this just ended up creating a trauma the way this all rolled out. There was a meditation synchronicity, and it felt right to go to a meditation group. And then I had met someone the day after I had my 8th contact event. I don't write about it anywhere. He taught me how to meditate. But I always found an excuse in my ego. I was too uncomfortable. I was too cold outside. A bug would land on me. I didn't really like that. Or so I always had an ego reason to not meditate. And it's probably one of the things I should have done very early on was to meditate. I may have been able to access some of that power. And it's not like I didn't have some degree of access to in it, but I was really tripped up with it, and the whole Heaven's Gate component really made large portions of this energy unavailable to me. In 2019, when the memories came out, learning the true origins of the rising allowed me to access the intense spiritual experiences that occurred during it, albeit with less intensity, even though they occurred over 20 years ago. And it's largely because I can draw on the source of them now and not on this book and these people. And expressing everything in this presentation allows me to truly, fully heal this and really hope to never talk about it ever again. I'll still be talking about my contact events and the traveling periods. There's still so much to dissect and to learn from. But I feel pretty closed now, actually, with this whole first contact event to the 7th and the rising. I feel I've done my best job to internalize and integrate everything that had happened to me. So I feel really good about all the work I've put together here for these presentations, and I hope you feel good about it too, and that you learn some things. But there are a couple things that I need to mention to finish all of this off here. So I just want to play this clip from a previous presentation I did with Ian Halling on the synchronicity around the V-shaped wing craft, the mass UFO sighting of the Phoenix Lights, and the Hale-Bopp comet that everyone was out to see during the night of the Phoenix Lights, and the connection with Heaven's Gate.
So this sighting, which is well documented on the UFO BC database. This is so well documented, actually. They did lots of interviewing, checked out all the details. The guys, like, they went through all the research, confirming, what the person saw that day. And they had all the details that they could generate. They tried to estimate the distance, right? Pretty brilliant, all from just this one sighting of this V-shaped wing craft that happened in December of 1998 or January of December of 1997 or January of 1998. close to the Patello Bridge that crosses the Fraser River in the city of New Westminster. 7 lights in a V-shaped. Okay, 12 kilometers from me experiencing the rising, did someone witness a V-shaped wingcraft that I'm saying occurred? That was me. I'm going through the rising, which was an actual experience from a V-shaped wingcraft. Also, we're talking about synchronicities here. The other connecting piece I want to make that I've never said directly in public. What is the most famous sighting of a V-shaped wingcraft?
Well, we're talking about the Phoenix lights.
Boom, you got it. Yeah, so this is actually this is from a Reddit. This is the only. Yeah, go ahead.
And in 1997 as well, March 1997, if I'm not mistaken, March 13th, wasn't it?
Yeah. This is the only known video of the giant V-shaped UFO that flew over Phoenix. So someone actually videoed it, and it's not that great of a video. You can see the definition of the V-shape there. It does get in better resolution. There it is there. Okay, but here's the connecting piece. Why was everyone out? Why did the Phoenix lights happen? Why did so many people see the Phoenix lights? Do you know that, Ian? Do you know what was happening at that time?
I'm not sure if there was some event going on locally or not. What's the story on that?
The Hale-Bopp comet.
Oh right, yeah, I remember the Hale-Bopp comet and going out camping with my friends and my girlfriend and watching that in that time period.
To see the crazy synchronicity for those who shall not be named, chapter 10 of my book.
I'm referring here to Heaven's Gate, which was in the first edition of my book.
Right. The Hale-Bopp comet, the largest sighting. I say that those people had the White Room experience because that's some similarities that I thought that were similar to that experience. Here I am saying the rising was connected to the White Room experience, all taking place inside a V-shaped wingcraft. So for me, that's just a huge synchronicity, a huge part of the insane puzzle of the experience.
And the location where the group did their mass event was in San Diego, and Phoenix is only a couple 100 kilometers away. So its close proximity was also just very synchronistic and strange in this whole bizarre puzzle that seemed very connected. Lastly, so just another insane and amazing, fast-ending aspect to the entities that has me absolutely flabbergasted. So the entities are from the future. So just observe how insane this is. The book that changed my life, that altered my trajectory and set me on a path abandoning my life in society, was written in 1997 in response to their death, which occurred also in 1997. Yes, they had interviews in 1975, but the book wasn't written and published until 1997. The author Brad Steger describes how after their death, the publisher reached out to him to write the book. The entities made the agreement with me to discover my soul in 1993, which could only be triggered by a book not even written or set into motion to be written at the time of the agreement. How did they do this? Because from their perspective, the aliens are in the future. The book already exists. They just come back into the past years before the book is written and make an agreement with a higher self to utilize the information in it, which they can then facilitate to align perfectly. I am an alternate timeline. I feel it through and through. You listening to this right now is a part of that alternate timeline. There's some version out there of me that didn't read this book and didn't have this event happen. So I just, I feel it. I feel it so clearly, and it's evidenced by the fact that the book is written in 1997, and this whole thing started with me in 1993. And there's no other way. The probabilities, the idea that that they're on our time and they're trying to align up quantum probabilities, I would see as much more energy intensive than it would be to literally come from a future perspective where a book has already been written and then you just come back and line everything up. So yeah, extremely wild. Lastly, I'm going to end on a clip from my friend Ian Halling, who was there with me when I presented this information on October of 2020.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys. Thank you for just being here. And you see, like, that Heaven's Gate shit was just, it just hid. I had to cover it up. No one could ever understand. No one could ever understand it. Can you imagine how many people I told that experience to? And we're like, oh, you love Heaven's Gate now, do you? Oh, you follow Heaven's Gate? I can't tell you how many people thought I was that my friends thought I went to go follow Heaven's Gate. Like, my psyche has been traumatized by that. Like, I was anxious beyond everything just to get this out. And all of you, no one's commented on it. Everyone, I assume, gets it. It seems to obviously naturally flow in my story. So I appreciate that. And it means the world to me, because that was my demon right there.
So, Jeff, that's nothing to worry about the book. I know that you shared some of that earlier with me about the book and your anxieties about it. That was merely the tool to do the job. And in a way, by disguising it almost in a Trojan horse with the book, it meant that it wasn't released or openly released to you, because it always had that shadow with it of the supposed negativity. But now I think that you can throw that off, that was just the tool to deliver it, and cleverly disguised so that you wouldn't, let's say, necessarily openly discuss it and openly advocate things from Heaven's Gate. It was almost like it had to be hidden inside the message. And that's what it served.
You're right, totally. Great, love it. Thank you.
That's the way it works. I'm sure it is.
You're totally right. It's all very methodical and planned out. And for me, it's just what I'm living through, and then one day it all makes sense. Yeah, totally.